Breaking. They told us football was just a game. But tonight, it feels like a crime scene. Shedeur Sanders, sidelined, silenced, suddenly out. One moment, he was the future of the league. The next, whispers of serious injury, closed-door meetings, and NFL owners looking like they just saw a ghost. If you thought you'd seen it all, think again. This is Spill News, where secrets explode before your eyes. The internet couldn't believe it, and you won't either. Fans refreshing timelines, blogs deleting posts, insiders going quiet, and coaches reportedly pacing back and forth, phones buzzing, asking the same question: how did this happen so fast? Some are saying it was bad luck. Others are saying someone knew. Screenshots started circulating. Fake DMs allegedly surfaced. And one viral comment said it best: "Bro said too much and they got him." But here's the real question. If you were in this position, same pressure, same spotlight, same people smiling in your face while plotting behind closed doors, what would you do? Because what we're about to break down isn't just about an injury. It's about power, control, and how fast the league turns on you. Let's break it all down. And trust me, it gets uglier. Before the whispers, before the silence, before the word injury started carrying a different kind of weight. Shedeur Sanders was being marketed as untouchable. Not just a quarterback, not just a name, but a symbol. Every camera followed him. Every pre-game tunnel shot felt cinematic. Analysts didn't just talk about his arm. They talked about his aura, his confidence, his calm under pressure, the way he walked into NFL spaces like he already owned them. And maybe that's where the problem started. Because in this league, confidence is celebrated until it starts threatening the wrong people. Behind the scenes, the expectations were brutal. Team meetings that stretched longer than planned. Playbooks that changed overnight. Training schedules that quietly doubled. And sources, the kind that never put their names on record, started saying the same thing. They're pushing him harder than anyone else. At first, it looked like ambition. Then it started to look like desperation. Teammates noticed it before fans did. Shedeur staying late. Shedeur icing more than usual. Shedeur brushing off questions with that same smile. The one that says I'm good even when something's clearly not. And then came the little moments nobody clipped. A slight limp walking off practice. A shoulder roll between plays. A pause before throwing deep, just half a second longer than usual. Commentators called it nothing. Fans called it grind mentality. But inside the building, the tone was different. One alleged staffer later claimed, he mentioned pain weeks ago, not dramatic pain. The dangerous kind, the kind players try to play through. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because playing through pain is celebrated in the NFL until the story flips. Until the league needs distance. Until a star suddenly becomes a liability. Around the same time, Shedeur's name started popping up in places it normally wouldn't. Not headlines, meetings, owner-level meetings. Strategy calls that had nothing to do with next week's game and everything to do with long-term optics. One blog claiming executive said, he's too central to everything. If he goes down, the fallout is bigger than football. Think about that. Not if he gets hurt, but when. And while fans were arguing stats online, something else was happening quietly. Training intensity increased, recovery windows shortened, and medical evaluations allegedly rushed. No official confirmation, of course, just patterns, the kind you only see after something breaks. Then came the night that insiders now call the turning point. A closed practice. No cameras allowed. No fan access. According to a leaked message, unverified but widely shared, Shedeur took a hit that didn't look right. Not dramatic. No collapse. Just one of those moments where the field goes quiet for a split second and everyone pretends it didn't happen. He got up, finished the drill, walked it off. Classic football story, right? Except he didn't address the media afterward. Except his reps dropped the next day. Except his throwing motion, subtle as it was, didn't look the same. And still, the machine kept moving. Promos aired. Merch dropped. Talk shows debated MVP potential. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, medical opinions reportedly didn't match. One source allegedly said rest. Another allegedly said play through. And when there's disagreement at that level, the decision rarely belongs to the player. That's when the mood shifted. Teammates started speaking in coded language. Coaches deflected questions. And Shedeur himself, usually outspoken, went quiet on socials. No posts, no captions, no cryptic emojis, just silence. Then, a supposed DM leaked. Again, unverified but explosive. A message from someone claiming to be close to the situation read, "They're protecting the brand, not the body." That line spread faster than highlights. Fans began asking questions. Why was his workload changing? Why were reporters suddenly cautious with their wording? Why did one insider delete a tweet minutes after posting it? And then the phrase nobody expected hit the timeline. Serious injury. Not confirmed. Not denied. Just floating there, heavy. Sports radio went from hype to hesitation. Former players started saying things like, "I've seen this movie before." And that's the thing about the NFL, it has patterns. When a player is truly fine, the league is loud. When something's wrong, it gets quiet, very quiet. No timelines, no clear updates, just phrases like being evaluated and out of caution. But caution for who? Because as the days passed, the whispers got louder. Owner reactions reportedly ranged from concern to panic. One anonymous quote claimed, "This isn't just about him. This affects everything. Contracts, schedules, narratives." And in the middle of it all, Shedeur, a player who built his identity on confidence and control, suddenly stuck waiting. Waiting on scans, waiting on calls, waiting on decisions that might already be made. The fans saw a star. The league saw a risk. And just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get any stranger, when insiders believed the worst had already leaked, another conversation surfaced. Another name entered the picture. And the injury? It started looking less like an accident and more like the breaking point of something much bigger. But what came next, even his enemies didn't expect. The first leak didn't come from a reporter. That's what made it dangerous. It showed up late at night, buried inside a thread that barely had any traction, until one sentence changed everything. A supposed insider claimed that Shedeur Sanders wasn't just injured, he was being protected from the truth. No scans attached. No documents. Just a sentence that hit like a hammer. This is worse than they're admitting. Within hours, the post was gone. Deleted. Wiped clean. But screenshots? Those live forever. Fans started reposting it with captions like, "They're hiding something, and this feels familiar." Sports blogs picked it up carefully, using words like allegedly and sources suggest, but the damage was already done. The conversation had shifted from "is he okay?" to "how bad is it really?" And then came the second leak, the one that made NFL insiders nervous. A fake medical-style summary began circulating, claiming Shedeur was dealing with a multi-layer issue, not just one injury. Again, unverified. Again, no names. But the language felt too specific. Recovery timelines, risk assessments, phrases like long-term implications and career management. Suddenly, this wasn't about missing a game. It was about missing a future. Coaches were asked about it the next day. None answered directly. One laughed it off. Another changed the subject. And one, noticeably tense, said, "We're letting professionals handle it." That line didn't calm anyone. It made things worse. Because in NFL language, professionals often means lawyers, PR teams, and ownership. That's when owner reactions started leaking out. One league-connected podcast claimed multiple owners were privately alarmed. Not sympathetic, alarmed. According to that report, the concern wasn't just health. It was optics, revenue, narrative control. One alleged quote stood out. "If this turns into a long-term thing, it changes the landscape." No name attached, but it didn't need one. Behind the scenes, meetings reportedly multiplied. Emergency calls, risk evaluations, conversations that had nothing to do with play calling and everything to do with damage control. At the same time, Shedeur's camp went quiet. No statements, No pushback. No reassuring quotes. Silence, the loudest sound in sports. Then the blog started doing what blogs do best. Digging, comparing timelines, lining up practice footage with injury rumors. One clip went viral showing Shedeur favoring one side weeks earlier. Another showed him grimacing between plays. Fans asked the obvious question, why wasn't this addressed sooner? And just like that, the narrative tilted from unfortunate injury to possible mismanagement. A former player jumped into conversation on a live stream, saying, I've seen teams run a guy into ground, then act shocked when he breaks. He didn't say Shedeur's name. He didn't have to. Everyone knew who he was talking about. The clip spread fast, adding fuel to a fire the league clearly wasn't ready for. And then, right when things couldn't get messier, another name surfaced. A high-level figure, never mentioned publicly before, allegedly tied to earlier decisions about Shedeur's workload. The rumor suggested that concerns were raised internally and overruled. Again, no proof, just whispers. But in the court of public opinion, whispers are enough. Social media turned ruthless. Memes, sarcastic captions. One tweet read, because nothing says player safety like ignoring red flags. Another said, funny how day-to-day turned into out indefinitely. The tone shifted from concern to accusation. Fans weren't just worried anymore. They were angry. NFL insiders tried to calm things down, urging patience. But patience is hard when updates feel rehearsed and vague. Every press release sounded the same. Every quote felt filtered. And the more controlled the messaging became, the more people assumed something was being hidden. Meanwhile, Shedeur himself was reportedly struggling. Not just physically, emotionally. According to a fake source close to the situation, he felt cut off. Decisions happening around him, plans being made without him. A sense that the league had moved from protecting the player to protecting itself. True or not, that perception resonated deeply with fans. Then came the moment that pushed everything over the edge. A major outlet teased the story. Not published yet, just teased. The headline hinted at behind-the-scenes disagreements and conflicting medical opinions. The league allegedly stepped in before it dropped. The story never went live. And when something doesn't get published, people assume the worst. That's when the phrase, out of the league, started trending. Not officially, not confirmed. Just fans connecting dots, jumping ahead, imagining the worst-case scenario. And while analysts tried to walk it back, the damage was done. The idea was out there. And ideas don't need facts to spread. They need fear. Owners reportedly went into full damage control mode. Emergency calls with sponsors. Quiet reassurance behind closed doors. One insider claimed, they're less worried about this season than the precedent. Because if the story spiraled, it wouldn't just affect one player. It would reopen uncomfortable conversations about how stars are handled and discarded. And just when the league thought it could ride out the storm, quietly, another leak surfaced. Another voice spoke up. Another version of the story challenged everything said so far. Because the injury, it might not have been the biggest secret. The biggest secret was what happened after it. By the time the league realized it had lost control of the narrative, it was already too late. The story had grown legs, not because of official confirmations, but because of what wasn't being said. And in the NFL, silence is never neutral. It's strategic, calculated, and almost always self-serving. For Shedeur Sanders, the fallout didn't begin with a press conference. It began with distance. Distance from the facility. Distance from the cameras. Distance from the league that once couldn't stop talking about him. According to alleged insiders, his rehab process became unusually private. No updates. No timelines. Just carefully worded phrases like ongoing evaluations and long-term planning. Fans noticed something else too. The shift in tone. Analysts who once praised his leadership suddenly spoke in hypotheticals. If he returns, assuming he's cleared, depending on recovery. Those words may sound harmless, but to athletes, they're warning signs. They signal doubt, and doubt spreads fast. Behind closed doors, The emotional toll reportedly intensified. One fake source claimed Shedeur felt like the decision-making had been taken out of his hands, that his future was being discussed in rooms he wasn't allowed into. Whether true or not, the idea struck a nerve, because every fan knows this part of the story. When a player goes from being a plan to being a problem. Meanwhile, the league's response grew colder. Not hostile, just distant. No visible support campaigns. No public reassurance. No get-well-soon narratives. Just procedural language. Corporate language. The kind that treats humans like assets on a balance sheet. Then came the speculation about what happens next. Some insiders whispered about extended recovery. Others hinted at behind-the-scenes pressure to mocking protect the brand. A few went darker, suggesting that the league was quietly preparing for a future without him, just in case. No proof, just the kind of conversations that happen when uncertainty scares powerful people. And powerful people were scared. Owners, according to multiple unverified reports, were less focused on one injury and more focused on the example the situation might set. If fans started questioning how stars are handled, if former players started talking, if this turned into a larger conversation about health, workload, and accountability, the fallout could stretch far beyond one name. That's when the tone online changed again. Fans stopped asking, is he okay? They started asking, did they fail him? Old clips resurfaced. Interviews where Shedeur talked about pushing through pain. Quotes about toughness and sacrifice. Statements that once sounded heroic now felt tragic. People began reframing the narrative, not as a freak injury, but as the end result of relentless pressure. Former players chimed in indirectly. Stories about careers shortened, bodies breaking down, promises made and quietly broken. None of them mentioned Shedeur by name. They didn't have to. The parallels were obvious. And then, suddenly, silence from him. No interviews, no statements, no rebuttals. That silence became the loudest part of the story. Some interpreted it as focus, others as frustration, a few as resignation. One viral comment said, when the league stops talking and the player stops talking, that's when you know something's wrong. The mystery deepened when a rumored internal report suggested disagreements about next steps. Allegedly, not everyone agreed on whether returning soon was wise, or whether stepping away entirely was safer. Again, unverified, but believable, because at this stage, everything felt plausible. The phrase out of the league continued to circulate, not as a fact, but as a fear. Analysts tried to shut it down. Teams refused to comment. And yet, no one fully denied it either. They just kept saying, we'll see. That's not reassurance. That's postponement. As weeks passed, attention shifted elsewhere, as it always does in sports. New games, new scandals, new heroes. But for those still watching closely, something felt unfinished, like a chapter had ended without an explanation. One final rumor surfaced, quieter than the rest. It suggested Shedeur was reconsidering everything, his approach, his trust, his relationship with the league itself. Not quitting, but reassessing whether the system that elevated him was also the one that broke him. And that idea, that hit harder than any injury update, because it forces a question the NFL hates answering. What happens when a player realizes a game doesn't love him back? No dramatic exit, no official farewell, just a slow fade from the spotlight, and a league eager to move on. As of now, the truth remains buried under careful language and closed-door meetings. The injury is real, the concern is real, but the full story? That's still locked away. And maybe that's the most unsettling part, because players come and go, narratives change, but secrets like these don't disappear. They linger, they resurface, they wait. And while Shedeur may have stepped out of the public eye, the questions never did. He didn't vanish in a headline. He didn't leave with an announcement. He just faded into silence, and the secret stayed. So now the question isn't just about an injury. It's about everything that came with it. Because stories like this don't end when the cameras turn away. They end when the truth finally surfaces. And in this case, the truth still feels unfinished. We've seen the rise. We've seen the pressure. We've seen the silence. And we've seen how fast a league that builds stars can also distance itself from them. Was this really just bad luck? Or was it the inevitable result of a system that keeps pushing until something breaks? That's what makes this story uncomfortable, because it forces fans to look past highlights and stats and ask harder questions about player safety, about control, about who really makes the decisions when millions of dollars are on the line. And here's the thing, the story is far from over. More leaks always surface. More insiders always talk. And silence never lasts forever. So now we want to hear from you. What do you think really happened behind closed doors? Was this injury handled the right way? Or was something covered up? Do you believe the league protects its stars or protects its image? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the best conversations always happen there. If you think this story deserves more attention, hit that like button so more people see it. And if you want the next update the moment it breaks, subscribe to the channel right now. Because at Spill News, we don't chase headlines. We chase the stories they don't want you asking about. Stay locked in, stay questioning, and stay ready, because the next chapter might be closer than anyone expects.